Inwards, outwards. Inwards, out.
IWOW. Welcome to IWOW, December, the last one of 2023, which I hope is the just one of many, many years of a lovely country where people are all happy with each other. How many things can I forget to say? Shoot them out. So we know we have a donation in the back. A basket's back there. We have a particular human to thank who's sitting there hiding in the back in a hat, Andreas Engel. The one yammering in the back, being very humble, is Andreas Engel. And then Melanie set all of this up, was painted by the wonderful Deb Kaufman, I'm guessing. I don't remember the scene exactly. And we always have Deb Kaufman to thank, and Sarah and her family, which this community completely understands. And looking around, no further explanation. There's a 5-minute rule, but usually we have. That was invented when we had 20 people. And it would take us from 7 to 9. So tonight we knew ahead of time that there were not many signed up. Since coming through the door, we've added 4 more. So I think we'll have a nice warm house. We have an unusual amount of music, which is great for December. And my expectations for December, the theme is over the river. And what else is forgetting for? We'll have announcements at the end. And, pardon? Yeah, bathrooms are upstairs. All right. And this is not a trick question. This theme over the river, where did it come from, Denise? And Denise, Trevor, is just as a constant, holds this together, held it together through COVID and everything. So where'd the theme come from? You would think. The other times that I've hosted years ago, I was also asked, do I have an idea for a theme? And one time it wasn't accepted, fine. But when I got your email asking if I would do this, because of Thanksgiving, there was already a melody in my head. And I thought, that's a theme. Over the river. And so that's where it came from. Okay, so where did that come from? All I'm going to tell you about tonight, I won't give you a story or anything, but interspersed amongst you artists, I will be telling you about where that comes from. And here's a lovely photograph from Wikipedia. I'll hold it up for Joe. Lydia, Mariah, Francis Child. I think there's 20 stanzas in there, which we know the first 4 of, maybe from school. It's Grandpa's house, but Grandma's mentioned at the very end. But the lovely surprise, I pay Wikipedia. I hope everyone does. Every month I pay them a small amount. I'll just read the opening paragraph, and then we will have our first performer, who is going to be Eric Reinhardt. So you're on deck. The opening paragraph, I decided I wasn't going to give that to you. We're going to hold off on that. So we have a lot of music tonight. Shouldn't say it that way. There's, I think, 4 guitars. And so, Eric, give us a song or two. Eric Reinhardt, and on deck, I believe, is Kitty Kiefer. And
I will play with this a little and make it a music stand. Huh? But there's a speaker on. Is that a speaker? No, if you put the speaker on the ground, you can do that.
We'll make the stage smaller next time. Okay?
I'm used to playing on smaller stages than this.
But how the visuals for
I just wrote this song and I played it for Praise Sunday on this last Sunday for Joni and Steve and a wonderful crowd. That was a great service. If you guys ever want to experience community fellowship and bring your own God church at the Guthrie Center, it's lovely. So it's called Winter. Snow will soon be falling in the Berkshires, blanketing the trees and the towns. Cold will come calling with winter winds. We'll stay inside to stay warm. We are falling like the snow. Winter takes us, here we go. All the lessons that we know. What we need is what it takes to show ourselves a little grace, just enough to find our way back home. I have taken lifetimes just to get here, to a place where I found my song. I can go inside, accepting all that is, and stay strong. I am falling like the snow. Winter takes me, here I go. All the lessons that you show me. What I need is what it takes to show myself a little grace, just enough to find my way back home. Winter's falling in the Berkshires. I found my song. Cold will come calling with winter winds. We'll stay inside to stay warm. We are falling like snow. Winter takes us, here we go. All the lessons we've been shown. What we need is what it takes. Show ourselves a little grace, just enough to find our way back home, way back home. Oh, way back home. What we need is what it takes. Show ourselves a little grace, just enough to find our way back home. Thank you. A second one? Well, they blew up the chicken man in Philly last night. They blew up his house too. down on the boardwalk, they're ready for a fight. Gonna see what them racket boys can do. Well, there's trouble busting in from out of state, and the DA can't get no relief. Gonna be a rumble out on the promenade, and the gambling commissioner's hanging on by the skin of his teeth. Well, everything dies, baby, that's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. So put your makeup on and fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, I got a job and I put my money away, but I got the kind of debts that no honest man can pay. So I dropped what I had out from the Central Trust, and I bought us 2 tickets on that Coast City bus. Yeah, everything dies, baby, that's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. So put your makeup on and fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, our luck may have died and our love may run cold, but with you forever I'll stay. Hey, we'll be going out where the land turns to gold. So put your stockings on, 'cause it might get cold. Everything dies, baby, that's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. So put your makeup on and fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, I'm looking for a job, but it's hard to find. There's winners and there's losers, and I'm south of the line. Took what I had. Everything dies, baby, that's a fact. Maybe everything that dies someday comes back. So put your makeup on and fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Woo. Thanks, Ted. Thank you.
What was the name of that second song?
That was
What?
Bruce Springsteen and Live on Compton.
I should have known. So, Kitty, you know that you're coming up soon. I'm just going to say a few things about our host, Lydia. Don't have to go back at all. Mrs. Child. She was not born child. Of course, we know that she wrote Over the River and Through the Woods. Single wood. You might not know that it was originally called the New England Boys' Song about Thanksgiving. And it's in her book called Flowers for Children, which celebrates her childhood memories of visiting her grandmother's house, which is said to be the Paul Curtis house in Medford, the town she was born in. So she's a Massachusetts person. Final point for right now. The poem was eventually set to tune by, we don't know. We don't know. Well, Wikipedia doesn't know, and I decided not to go into. Yeah, so we don't know. So leave it at that. So Kitty, and then Kristen, you're on deck wherever you are. There you are.
Can you tell us about the outcome of the vote first? She won.
Oh, yeah, I won by 3 votes. 400, 400, yeah, 429 to 426. I know. So when it's your turn to vote, go do it. It matters. And I've been teased endlessly in town. Everyone comes up to me and says, I was the 2. And I say, that's right. That's right. But I was the 1. So I was the 1. And after that, there's only 1 by 2. So anyway, okay. I've had my first selectmen's meeting. And I'm very, very, very grateful. Okay. Get real. Over the river and through the woods and off to romantic memories we go. Christmas every year, magical thinking, holding the romantic ideal and applying it to present circumstances. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Anticipation, a combination of insanity and magical thinking. Being a kid in December, swirling with impulses, ideas, colors, and the lessons in carols, words, and hymns at Salisbury Boys' School. After that service and tea at the headmaster's house, and then home, still in our dress clothes, as the grown-ups had a little cocktail party, we watched every year The Wizard of Oz on our black and white TV. The flying monkeys were nicely scary in black and white, but I never saw the horse of many colors until a few years ago. The colors, that is. The scarecrow, his smile and loose joints, the Tin Man and his tears, the lion trying to keep his tail under the heavy coat as, disguised as a soldier, he marched into the witch's castle. By the time the lion was going into the castle, I, the oldest kid, was standing on the sofa in my stocking feet, my hands over my mouth. Dorothy, a kid, like us, rather like us, surprised and startled, the one to whom everything happened, and the little dog too. The speed of the movie was perfect. No resting spots except maybe the poppies. The world of kid in my house was newly experienced every year. I have one brother 3 years younger and another brother 6 years younger than I. I knew that the movie would end with only the witch dead and everyone else getting their wishes. I'm not at all sure what my brothers thought. One would run out of the play room at the scary parts, and the other would just shut down, eyes closed. I loved the singing of the hymns at the school, the party snacks, and then the movie. I just loved that movie. As a kid, anticipation, magical thinking, and insanity did not interfere with my joy. Every year was bright and new. The Currier and Ives print of the horse-drawn sleigh with the people wrapped in blankets and the black horse prancing and dancing, tail arched, dashing, sleigh bells, frosty breath, joy and excitement, over the river and through the woods. To grandmother's house we go. As a kid at Christmas, our grandmothers came to us, one from 5 miles away in her own car, and the other came from New Haven with her driver 80 miles away. The grandmothers got into our flow. As we got to Christmas Eve, here the insanity of the grown-ups came into play. They got us excited and then expected us to go to sleep on command. Before we were sent to bed, Dad read The Night Before Christmas to us, Prancer, Dancer, Donner, Blitzen. Absolutely no Rudolph, absolutely no little drummer boy. We had all angels, having been heard on high, a birth of a mysterious baby, born to fulfill certain hopes and prophecies, then Gloria and Hallelujah, sung over a stable with manger and hay, because there was no room available at the inn. We had never stayed in an inn. That was another mystery. Then St. Nicholas, whom some people called Santa Claus, with the flying sled and gifts. He visited our house. He came down our big stone chimney. We left always a small glass of milk and one of our best decorated Christmas cookies on a saucer for him on the mantel of the big fireplace, so the cats would not have their way with the milk. We always had snow. We always had a beautiful tree with antique ornaments decorated by elves after we went to bed on Christmas Eve. There was less breakage with the elves. But Santa filled our stockings, and there were always boot prints in the ashes of the big fireplace, and the ash tracks went into the living room. Santa wore the same LL Bean boots with that chain print as our father wore, so we knew he would never slip on the roof. When we got up in the morning, we three kids sat on the top stair, waiting for Dad to go to the cellar and spark up the wood furnace. Our house was usually chilly in the winter. This was our normal. Then, downstairs to the living room. The Christmas lights were on, the tree was brilliant, always with white lights. The floor warmed gradually from the wood furnace right under us, and the registers began to creak and throw warm air. Mom and Dad, after we were sitting in our spot for the day, would give us each our Christmas stocking. Everything was wrapped in tissue paper, no tape. We recycled Christmas paper, so we could not rip into our presents, but saved our little piles to be straightened later, flattened, and put in a big, flat garment box. Mom smoked a cigarette or two, drank coffee, opened her few stocking presents, and watched us. Both parents were tired from, it turns out, being kept awake by us, by the jingling of sleigh bells, and wondering what damage the cats had done to everything. After stockings, we did our barn chores. We always had 3 or 4 horses and 3 or 4 beef animals, sometimes sheep. Always chickens whose water was frozen. Everyone needed hay outside and flakes here and there. Then we would bring in firewood for the wood stove and the fireplaces. Mom stuffed the turkey, made pancakes for us as we came in from chores, cold and hungry and filled with anticipation. Gifts were opened one at a time, the youngest first, up through Dad. As soon as I could write, which was the first grade, I was the scribe, keeping track of who got what from whom, so that in the afternoon, after the turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberries, and a green vegetable, probably green beans, and apple pie and vanilla ice cream, we all wrote thank you notes. Then I would be lost in a new book, far, far away from the adults. I was finally over the river and through the woods, and so to bed. Only as I grew into my 20s and 30s did magical thinking interfere with my anticipation of the insanity of Christmas. And now I am cured of that too. Over the river and through the woods is enough for me.
Katie Kiefer, thank you. Really took us over that river. Lydia went by her middle name, which looks like Maria, but she wanted it pronounced Mariah. So she was Mariah that wrote our song. In her early 20s, get this, she lived with her brother, who had gone to Harvard. She would not have such education or privileges herself. But she met many top writers and thinkers of the day through him. And she read an article one day that you could be an artist. You could be an author, even write novels. And she thought, well, that sounds pretty good. And she immediately wrote her first novel in 6 weeks and wrote continually her whole life. We'll hear more about what she wrote and did. So she wrote novels, poetry. She wrote The Frugal Housewife, which contained advice for young housewives, published in 1829. That first one was published, by the way, anonymously. I don't know if I said that. By an American. And I'll tell you more about that. Oh, that Frugal Housewife expanded through 33 printings in 25 years. More than a songwriter. All right, so now we have Kristen Grippo And then we will have Jenny, who will be on here. Kristen Grippo.
Let's see. So before I lived in the Berkshires, I lived in the Hudson Valley for a long time. I still have the 845 area code to prove it. And Andreas as well, confuses folks. And I lived in a small town called Gardner, which is just north of New Paltz, which is just south of Kingston. And the Wallkill River is a tributary that flows off of the Hudson through those towns and iconically under a bridge going into New Paltz. And they say something, maybe they say this about many local rivers, like if you fall in the Wallkill, you'll always return. And so in my early 20s, I was a new teacher teaching full-time public school, and my then boyfriend was also a high school teacher, and we lived in an apartment with friends who lived upstairs, and one of them was a colleague, so we were kind of like these young, hardworking educators, and it was Columbus Day weekend, and we had like the 3-day weekend ahead of us, and decided that we were going to take, my boyfriend's name was Glenn. Glenn had his grandfather's Grumman canoe, so like a really old, sturdy canoe. We were going to take it out on the Wallkill, and there was this thing that you could do where you could lazily almost take the canoe from Gardner down to New Paltz, and we were going to pull it out and like have a beer and have our friend pick us up, like drive down and pick us up. It was close enough. Seemed like a good idea. So it was myself and Glenn and Rob, my colleague. And I'm not a naturalist. I never really have been, not very experienced. And it was the fall. It was chilly, and I remember I was in like a vest and jeans and a backpack and boots. This comes in later. And we packed the gear. Definitely, and I'm not a big drinker, but there was definitely like a 6-pack involved. There might have been a joint or a spliff or something. And we had life jackets, and we figured, Rob was in the front, Glenn was in the back, and I was in the middle on like a mini folding chair, like a little, like a kid size folding chair in the middle of a canoe, because that's a great idea. And I had, we had these like I didn't have a vest on. I think we just had these like flotation pillows or something that were kind of around. Something funny about Glenn is he was really into Burt's Beeswax, the chapstick. It's just like a weird thing. He was like addicted to it. So he always had like a Burt's Bees in his pocket. I just realized I just put some on, but it was the tinted one. To this day, I can't really do just the plain Burt's Bees. He's a great guy. Nothing wrong. That's in the whole other story, which is a great story. So here's the thing about the Wallkill. So there's this, when you live in those places like we do here with the Housatonic and the Green River, you get to know the spots. You get to kind of see the height of the water and like where different things are poking out or not. And there's this one particular like bend in the road where you can see usually like these huge sort of almost like boulders in the middle of the river. It had been raining like a whole lot before that Friday or Saturday. None of us really thought about that. So we like get on our way and we get to this, and it's pretty like rapidy, but like, whatever. And we get to the spot where normally you see these like big bouldery things. I don't see them at all, which means they're under the water. Yeah. So, yeah, they didn't go anywhere. Right. So, the first thing is that like we see one kind of poking out and the canoe hits it and we just topple over. We topple over and we're kind of like, whoa, but we have it and we get our bearing and like somehow climb back in. And now we're in the canoe and it's filled with water to here. And this was pretty quick. Like we get in, but we're like, okay. And then like before I even really am able to get my bearings again, the front of the canoe kind of, my memory is like it hits and kind of does like a, yeah. And, yeah. And so we're tumbled out. I've been wearing glasses since I was in second grade. I am very nearsighted. So like my glasses are whipped off of my face. Oh, and I had a backpack that had my car keys in it, and I had the presence of I had the backpack with one hand. So I'm out, but I've got the backpack, and I remember this moment of the most wild clarity I think I'd ever had in my life up until like I saw the canoe. I watched the Grumman like going, and it was sort of like the river was bending, right? So I watched the Grumman. I saw the folding chair, and I'm moving too, the folding chair. And I kid you not, the Burt's Bees, the little chapstick. I see it floating. And now, I'm being swept away. I'm being swept away. I'm in the middle of the river. I have an awareness of the two guys, but I have to get somewhere. And it was for as like scared or for as either drunk or high I might have been, that was done. I was fully present and made it to like this little sort of island of rocks. And then I saw Rob had made it and was really disoriented and like scrambling. Glenn also was kind of on his way, but it was tough because I had stopped swimming. Like I was on this island, but I had to go back in to get to the shore to be okay. So I braced myself and I went in again and I was swimming against the current, and finally the last like few meters, I just got on my back and like doggy paddled as fast as I could, and made it to the land, and we were okay, and we went up to some old farmers who thought that we were pranking them. Like we were totally weird and hysterical. Like we lost our canoe. And they were like, are you kidding? Who are these kids? Are you kidding? And we were like, no, like, our friend came and picked us up, and it seems the story should end there. It was like a bummer. Oh man. And we lost Glenn's grandfather's canoe. So that was sad. And the weekend transpired, Rob missed a wedding and his wife was really angry, but he was so traumatized from the wreck that he couldn't go, and we were sad about the canoe. And then 2 days later, it's the weekend, and a friend of ours is in town in New Paltz, and he sees a car with a dented Grumman canoe on top. And he writes a note, if you found this, call this number. And it turned out someone had seen it, just a canoe floating by itself, and yanked it out. And weirdly, the guy was like a college kid, and he lived right near the spot where we had actually like fallen out of the river, the canoe. So we gave him like $50 and a 6-pack, and he got the canoe back. Yeah, which is great. So when I heard the prompt, it's one of my go-to stories, and it's always fun to reflect on, and just bringing it all together here. I'm feeling like in this moment grateful for the reminder of that part of me that can be fully present and is able to make really clear and steady choices and movements as I navigate this river. And I'm just really like always, but just feeling gratitude and thanks to Deb, to all of you for this moment of being in my body, alive and smiling, and more than ever, needing to and ready and able to move through the river of this wildlife with that kind of clarity and an open heart. Thank you.
Kristen Grippo takes us over the river in another way. Beautiful. And Jenny Clark is up right now, followed by, we'll have Deb Macheski. Where are you, Deb? There we are. Let's have some more reports about Lydia. 1808, it's on my photo. 1802. Yeah. Lived 78 years. So that novel that she wrote, remember, she said, oh, you could write a novel. 6 weeks later, she writes a novel, publishes it anonymously. It was called Hobomok, A Tale of Early Times, published anonymously, as I said, by An American. It's about interracial marriage between a white woman and a Native American man who have a son together. And the heroine later remarries, reintegrating herself and her child into Puritan society. It caused a scandal. Good girl, right off in the literary community, and the book was not a critical success. Jenny Clark.
So, my friends, I have a treat for you tonight. And it's me. And I am going to do a Susan Solovay impersonation and read this in her amazing way. I hope to, at least. I can take direction if you want. A river divides land and people and nations. And tonight, for me, a river divides memories. My river is the dividing line between simpler, slower, younger, more energetic, prettier me, typewriters, photostat machines, Kodak slides. Now I have email, 15,000 photos on my computer, Photoshop, access to a tidal wave of opinions, newsiness, instant replies, and a tsunami of promotion and self-promotion. Then I had order, I had newsprint ink on my fingers, I had parents, gifts, less confidence. Now I have house, mortgage, groceries, sleeplessness, precious time, 50 decisions a minute, and you all. Here's a window into my life back then, over the river of high tech that has so shaped my current life. I would have preferred a turntable and some vinyl to complete this picture, but now there's a little gift from YouTube soon. And so here's my family, my friends, my workplaces, and a lot about me.
Jenny Clark, thank you. A dog, right, Steve? There was a white dog on one of the slides, one of my favorites. Beautiful stuff. So Jenny did half of that with words and half of it without words. In words, without words works nice too. Thank you so much. So we're going to have Deb is up next. Oh, there she is. Just stay there for a second as I say something about Lydia. And then, just so you know, Andres, because this is fluid, that's when we'll have you. Yes, after Deb Macheski. All right, so in 1831, by now she is, she's a Mrs. Child, met her husband, and they began to identify themselves with the anti-slavery clause. 1831. I don't know that much about, history, but it seems early to me. And it seems a lot of people correctly think, back then the culture wasn't the same. And if you had slaves and so forth, it wasn't so clear. Maybe the Bible said that. But some people just go, what? You don't do that. And she was one of them. Our over the river lady was one of those, and her husband. And she was a woman's rights activist. She did not believe significant progress for women could be made until after the abolition of slavery. She believed that white women, is that correct? Yep. And enslaved people were similar in that white men held both groups in subjugation and treated them as property instead of human beings. She believed that white women and enslaved people were similar because of white men held both groups in subjugation and treated them as property. We see that now so clear if you have any kind of a clear eye today, but she's, some of the people that saw that a lot back then. Deb Macheski.
I was going to read two poems, but I forgot my glasses. So this one I wrote, so hopefully I can read it. It's all right. It's all right. So I've read this poem a bunch of times here before, but I just wanted to end the year with it, just to thank everyone for just being themselves. There are delicate threads, iridescent in color, finer than the most subtle fishing line. These hold me here on this earth, like a spider web, covered in dewdrops, that glisten like jewels. Smaller in size than the softest tears, the dew washes over me and nourishes me. The threads of the web enrobe me and comfort me. Attached at the other end of each of these is one of my friends. I am linked to their hearts or their fingers or their toes. I float above the earth like a kite, drifting in a breeze on a bright summer day. Only the slightest bit of tension is needed, reminding me that I am loved and cared for and supported. Sometimes I drift into a tenuous place, trying to catch a glimpse of my future. I pull at the threads in a childish attempt to avoid the truth or my responsibilities. Yet I feel seen and honored by simple eye contact, a smile, or a few kind words. But one false move, and it is as if all balance is lost, and I will tumble to the ground. Yet the tendrils of the web catch me at my ankles and wrists and wrap around my heart. Even as I get caught up in my physical pain and fear, I feel protected and held in love. For each thread is strong like the thickest iron chain, resisting any of my thoughts of release or escape. So I remain here, linked to this earth and to all of you.
Maggie Mitchell.
I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, so. So, wow, it's nice to be here. It's been a long time. Is that good? You can hear me? This one? Okay. What's that? That's good. So, over the river and through the woods, to end her life she goes. My dear friend Susan Lockwood disappeared into the woods on October 30th of this year. It seems the pain of living was just too great. The past had been abusive. The present was sad, and the future looked bleak. But I knew Susan to be energetic and funny, passionate and angry at times,
intelligent and creative, quite fearful, but also very brave. She cared deeply about the environment, about the world, and those around her. She was a fighter. I had only recently learned that she grew up in a very violent home, the kind of family that appears normal on the outside, but violent and chaotic on the inside. And in retrospect, this is how she appeared to me, normal on the outside. Violence and chaos were barely held inside. I honestly missed the clues. I had no idea her pain was so great, that she teetered on the edge of this reality we call life. And yes, I feel a bit guilty about this, as if I should have done more, reached out more, listened more intently. I was traveling at the time, enjoying life and happy in my adventure. An incredible trip exploring the island of Sicily with my lover. I was shocked when a mutual friend contacted me while I was traveling with the sorry news. It's been over a month, and they have not yet found her body. Perhaps she found refuge somewhere with someone. I find I cannot fully grieve as a result as they continue to search over the river and through the woods.
Like a potluck, certain dishes, they fit very well together. Those last two. I'm studying. This is what you have to do as a host. I'm following the lines. I already did say who is coming next. Is Julie Kunz. Julie, is this your first time? Great. We love that. So Julie will come up and she told me a story, and then let's go with Eileen. You're on the list at that point. All right.
Hi. I'll never speak into a microphone, so let me know. I recently learned that I come from a long line of crazy. I didn't do a DNA test like 23andMe or anything like that. I went to Colorado and downloaded some information. A lot of persecution and death, most likely, yes. A lot of hurt and labeled crazy from long lines of ancestors on my father's side. So I've been reclaiming this word to embody the eccentric, the wild. The insane has been a word. Insanity has been a word tonight. It's not. No, like sanity, cleansing, clear, powerful, healer, medicine. So I'm practicing being crazy and trying to find what my crazy is. And the funny thing is that I've been a nature educator for about 8 years now. And I have spent lots of time outdoors, but I haven't quite had enough space and time in my life to slow down enough to listen enough. And some of that has been a long journey into being called crazy by my ex through divorce, lots of gaslighting, but telling me that all these things weren't true, but they very much were. And so listening to that intuition. Fast forward to last week, I was at Kripalu and I went for a walk in the woods. I dedicated 2 hours to just being in the woods. And I'm noticing that my crazy is listening to place. And I have messages from place. I can see place. So here are my scribbles from the other day in Kripalu. This one was, I don't even know, maybe it was an ash, like a very large ash tree. Foundations will have scars and cracks and repairs. The soil it lives in will continue to fertilize. This is the place of trust that it will go on. Down the path, there are all these grapevines. This is the other message I got from grapevines. Tangled messes shed and create a canopy of protection above, with enough room for light to shine down. There are many possible paths back up to the light, many twists and turns, all bring us back to origins of roots or the nourishing sun. And then the last one was at the Stockbridge Bowl of the lake, Mechanicac Lake. There is a straw to drink from a well at the bottom of the lake. It isn't struggling to surface. It's there to move into the right mouth, ready to receive it. Elixir of the bottom, strengthening forces that concentrate into a liquid uprising. That's it.
Julie. And you pronounce your last name Koons, correct? Yeah. I really love that format. I can see a book of prose in which you're describing what you were, just like this, almost no flourish, and then the message. And one of our people who we don't see here much anymore talks to trees profoundly and all the time, and we'll talk to you about that later. Elisa. Lydia campaigned for equal female membership and participation in the American Anti-Slavery Society, provoking a controversy that later split the movement. That's all fascinating. It's on Wikipedia. In 1833, so she's like around 31 now, published an appeal in favor of that class of Americans called Africans. It argued for the immediate emancipation of the enslaved people, 1833, without compensation to their legal owners. She was the first anti-slavery work, that was the first anti-slavery work printed in America in book form. Yeah, it is cool. Thank you. She endured social ostracism as a conspicuous champion of anti-slavery. And then I'll have 4 more points later. Now to figure out who, I think if he's not it's too hard for Steve. I didn't give you a warning. Can you come now? Great. Thank you. Steve is yet another wonderful songwriter. Oh, that's right. I did say you. Yeah, let's let Eileen to keep my word. So just thank you. They're both old pros here, so. Oh, really? Okay. So Joe has to edit it. Yeah. Eileen Marcus.
Okay. So is this okay for me? So I'm a little technology challenged. So like everyone else tonight, I am a little raw, and I'm trying something a little new. So it's half written, half done. I didn't want to come tonight. I was ensconced in a mountain, not a river, a mountain of pillows and blankets and golden doodle. and I was comfortable, my hot tea on my lap, and I didn't want to come. I had a bad day. My coffee maker broke. My collection of black hats is looking very thin. My body and shirts are more Botticelli than I'd like them to be. And I couldn't get into gear, you know. I read with a bunch of friends, and I thought everybody's was better. And I worry about these little things so I don't have to worry about the big things. Broken heart, my daughter's happiness, a friend going through a tragic loss, you know, just the suffering and the pain around us. So I worry about these little things. And I didn't want to come tonight. And then I thought, I don't have to cross a river to get there. I can make a straight route. And it reminded me of growing up, and I grew up in Long Island, my fellow Long Island girl. So I'm basically a water-based girl. Thank you for breaking the stage. I grew up in two islands, Long Island and Manhattan Island, both islands surrounded by water. And in Long Island, yes, it was the ocean, you know, that boring thing that ebbs and flows and goes, and, you know, how much ocean can you take, really? But I remember, you know, my first sense of going to visit my grandparents in the Bronx, over the river through the woods, over the Frog's Neck Bridge, which is really the Frog's Neck Bridge, but we call it the Frog's Neck Bridge. And I remember holding my breath because, God forbid, I fall in the water. I then remember the opposite years and years later when I lived in Manhattan. And every time I had to go back to my mother's house, I would hold my breath because I did not want to go. I did not want to be there. And I remember, you know, one of the things that, you know, the Hudson being such a part of my life, right? I lived by Riverside Park. And let me just make something very clear here. I do not like going in the river. I like being next to the river, looking at the river, seeing the river, over the river. In the river, I think I was scarred at Disney World by that lazy river. Have you ever been to the lazy river? Diapers, pee, alcohol. It's not pretty. It's very lazy. So I do not love the lazy river, but I like being near a river. So years ago, we had a park, you know, anybody that knows Upper West Side, anybody? You know, there's Riverside Drive and there's all these parks, and depending where you live, every 4 blocks. So our park was River Run, and when they redid the park, they closed it for months, so we had to go to Hippo Park, me and my daughter, or we had to go down to, I don't even know what the 76th Street Park, it was like basketball park, because they always play basketball there. Anyway, when they finally opened it, they did this thing of the Hudson River, and so, you know, it had the swings and everything, but it had this sprinkler that started up in the Adirondacks, not the Berkshires, the Adirondacks. And the river then had all the right places, Poughkeepsie, West Point, you know, all the things. And it went all the way down to the bottom. And the day they opened it, all the kids, you know, they were small then, they stood across and they opened their hands. My daughter must have been like 6 or 7. And the water ran through their legs down the river right to the bottom, which was called Manhattan. And that was the drain. It was the actual drain in the sandbox. But, you know, when I think about river, I also think about, did anybody watch 1877, the Yellowstone prequel? No one? Let's take a minute. No one? It was probably one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. The character development, the way they put together what happened. And there's a line there that says, you know, there are certain words that we whisper, that we're too afraid to say. You know, in my day and age, they're cancer, no Wi-Fi, you know, those kind of words. In their day and age, it was river. Because how did they get through it on a horse? There were no bridges. Most people died crossing the river. That was the real thing. And it made me think about other R words that we whisper. Republican, until we started yelling it very loudly, Republican. And it made me think about last year, roundabout. When that now there were roundabouts in Pittsfield too, right, Molly? There were roundabouts in Pittsfield too, but in Great Barrington, how many people were like that roundabout? You know, we whispered it. We didn't want it to come. We didn't want to see it. We didn't want to say it. And yet the roundabout has taught us a lot of things. It has taught us a lot of things. And this is where I don't know why this isn't working, so it's very embarrassing. Edit that out. So the roundabout really taught us a few things. And I think about it. I can I get this to do what I want it to do? The roundabout taught us to do a few things. So it really reminds us to be kind to others. You have to really think about who's going before me. It reminds you to look at who's in front and who's behind you, right? Is someone coming up my rear, or are they actually, who's coming in? It slows down the pattern. It changes the pattern. And changing human behavior is not easy. And I think that they took extra time to make that roundabout just so we'd all calm down and get patience. And when it finally opened, we weren't like, that roundabout. We're like, oh, the roundabout, right? We changed our opinion, and we don't complain so much about it, and we don't grumble anymore, and we take the roundabout. So this brings me to my life observations, about our words, rivers, around 9 days before my 63rd birthday. Now, why do I tell you that? Because, I do look 63 these days, because I want you all to remember my birthday and remember me. Another R word, remember. But I thought a lot about, what rivers do and what they remind us and who they are. And I really think that, rivers are the real deal. They don't ebb and flow. They stagnate. I stagnate sometimes. And then they flow. They cut rock and move mountains and change courses. They refresh and cleanse and harmonize with nature, with that rushing water, and they nourish the land, and they grow the freshest fish and the freshest water that you can drink right from it. And as I celebrate another year of living near this river, the river of my life, the river of the Housatonic that has a rhythm to it, that reminds me, and I remember what my friend Deb Kaufman taught me, I bow to the river, I bow to knowledge, I bow to friendship, I bow to community, I bow to loss, I bow to love, I bow to my creativity, I bow to this journey that we all end up taking alone, and I bow to this community and the abundance that IWOW has given us, that at these times on this journey that we can touch each other, that we can be together, that in our aloneness, in our nakedness, in our people trying to touch our soul, we can do that together and feel a little more like we're going together in a river.
And now it's Steve Mole.
Hi. So this song I'm going to sing is autobiographical. It's December 1970, and I'm stationed in the Air Force in Phan Rang Air Force Base, Vietnam. And we were supposed to leave for home after December, like end of January, beginning of February. But a bunch of us got an early out, so we got to come home before Christmas. But I didn't believe it at first. So our days came to get on the C-130 and fly into Saigon. I was on an Air Force base, so I was more or less safe. So we got on the C-130, flew into Saigon, got on the Freedom Bird, and all the guys were having steak and yucking it up. And I'm sitting in the back like, let's just get home. Right? So we make it to we get to America, and I get on a bus finally in Albany, and I come home, and different things happen. But it's in the middle of winter, and I have a khaki uniform on with short sleeves, so it's cold. So a lady on the bus, now this all seems like a dream, but it happened. It really does. It was like, so a lady on the bus asked me if I wanted a jacket. I said, yeah. So she, I can't remember much about it, so I must have gave it back to her. Then I got off the bus, walked home, and back then nobody locked their houses up, so you could just walk right in, and you were home. But I did make it, as you can see. Oh, so in my house, there's a dining room and a kitchen, and my piano's right here, or the piano. So my wife used to listen to me when I was writing, or trying to write or sing or something. So I had this song, and she told me that I should look up the poem Land of Counterpane, which is Robert Louis Stevenson, and counterpane is a blanket or a cover-up. So I had the song, sort of, but when I read the first verse, that made it a whole song. So this song's called Land of Counter Pain. Thank you. Of course, the first verse is Land of Counter Pain. When I was sick and lay in bed, had 2 pillows at my head, my toy soldiers around me lay, keep me happy all the day. It's been so long since I've seen home, since I've seen a happy face. Now I'm riding home alone to a warm embrace, a warm embrace. Fight on, young warrior, fight on, through the fears and the first light of dawn. Fight on, young warriors, fight on. Soon you'll be in her loving arms. Say you're fighting for freedom. Fight for peace. No matter how hard you try, just can't see the reason why. Finally landing on friendly soil, catch a bus to your hometown. Cold, no coat, someone offers you a cover-up. You smile, that's all it takes. Walking home those last few miles, it's dark and cold, but now you're warm inside. Walk right in, touch her awake. She smiles, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. Fight on, young warriors, fight on, through the fears and the first light of dawn. Fight on, young warriors, fight on. Soon you'll be in your mother's loving arms. When I was sick and lay in bed, had 2 pillows at my head, my toy soldiers around me lay, keep me happy all the day. Yeah. There you go. So I was going to sing this song. I don't know how you feel about it, because you don't know what song it is. Huh? You don't care how we feel about it? Oh, okay, well, we'll see. You might know this. There is some extra verses that I found. Of course, this is, who's this? Oh, Robert Burns from Scotland. Any guesses? Long, long ago, oh, long since, for one time's sake, or since long ago. Old Lang Syne. Oh, I know. Should we try it? Well, now it's too late, Ted. No, it's not. It's too late. Yeah, I'm going to play it.
We have just one more song.
Okay. You going to help me sing it? We'll try not to do the sappy version. Okay. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot, and days of old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne will take a cup of kindness yet, for days of old lang syne. And surely you'll buy your pint cup, and surely I'll buy mine, and we'll take a cup of kindness yet, for old lang syne. We've walked these hills a weary mile, where daisies grow so fine. Let's raise a glass and give a smile, for days of old lang syne. For days of old lang syne, my dear. For old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet, for old lang syne. We too have paddled in the stream, from morning sun till dine, but seas between us broad have roared since the days of old lang syne. Now give a hand, my trusty friend, and take my hand in thine. We'll raise a glass to all that's been days of old lang syne. We'll raise a glass and give a smile, for days of old lang syne. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot, and days of old lang syne, and days of old lang syne, my dear. Days of old lang syne, let's raise a glass of kindness yet, for days of old lang syne. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody here, believe me. Thank you.
Steve Mole. Steve Mole, you are a glass of kindness, man. You are just that. Do we keep this on the ground? Is that what we've been doing? It's been going up and down. All right. I'm going to do some final facts, and then we will have, I think, a first time. His last name is Perrett, P-E-R-R-E-T-T. His first name is Ben. He'll be up right there. What a lot of music we had tonight. She and her husband provided shelter for runaway slaves. She wrote an anti-slavery fiction to reach people beyond what she could do in her tracts, and to address issues of sexual exploitation, which affected both the enslaved persons and the slaveholder family. In both cases, she found women suffered from the power of men. In the 1850s, get this, think of today, there was a near fatal beating on the Senate floor of her good friend Charles Sumner, an abolitionist senator from Massachusetts, by a South Carolina congressman. Child wrote her poem, The Kansas Emigrants, for that. And in the 1860s, she wrote Native American Rights, an appeal for the Indians. In 1868, called on government officials as well as religious leaders to bring justice to American Indians. It contributed to the founding of the U.S. Board of Indian Commissioners and the subsequent peace policy in the administration of Ulysses Grant. Two more ending points about her. At her funeral, abolitionist Wendell Phillips shared the opinion of many within the abolition movement who knew her, quote, "We felt that neither fame, nor gain, nor danger, nor calumny had any weight with her." Fame, gain, danger, calumny. She's buried in Wayland in the North Cemetery. That's in Massachusetts, in the eastern part, and may we visit her someday. Yeah. Over the river and through the woods. Ben.
So I didn't know that the theme was Over the River and Through the Woods, specifically about that song. But my grandmother lived through the woods from my house growing up. And she loved this song that I'm about to play. And my heart is beating about 200 beats per second. It's easy when you sit back there. That's how I kind of prefer it. But this is a Deer Tick song, the band Deer Tick. It's called Cake and Eggs. Heaven's a beach, just you and me, laying in a bed of sand, with a blanket and a cooler and a 12-inch ruler. Try to catch us if you can. Life is a party, you can cry if you want to. You're the only invitee. Sometimes it's cake, sometimes it's eggs, and you're the only thing I eat. You can count on me when you're in a jam and you need a hand. I'm free. When you're in jail and you can't make bail, I got the money. People come, people go, and nothing ever stays the same. But the only thing that'll never change is that you're always on my brain. And this old house could fall down, the town could bottom out. But the only thing, if I have you, my dear, we'll do all of it someplace else. You can count on me when you're in a jam and you need a hand. I'm free. When you're in jail and you can't make bail, I got the money. Foot massage, mowing the lawn, any little thing you want. I'll do it in an instant for gravy and biscuits, so baby put that oven on. You can count on me when you're in a jam and you need a hand. I'm free. When you're in jail and you can't make bail, I got the money. When you're in jail and you can't make bail, I got the money.
Thank you. There's 4 guitars in the house.
Yeah.
Would you like to come on up and sing some jingle bells or something like that? How about you, Andre? Yeah. Steve? Want it, or is it sort of lost?
Thinking about
And we still have Eric around? Maybe
He was the one who
Eric on. Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, we have 3 guitars. Maybe Ann.
No ukulele?
We could just sing it without the guitar or whatever.
I know. It's just I don't think we've ever had in my time 4 guitars or 4 music pieces.
Yeah.
That's what I say. What'd you say? So, Jingle Bells in the key of C or something? Yeah.
Sure. Can you start? I don't know.
Might be like a C, F, and G. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
What do you think? C. I want to play you On the Sunshine for some reason. Jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one horse open sleigh. You go sing the first verse. The snow in a one horse open sleigh. What up here we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha. It is to laugh and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. All right, second verse. For the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells la 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 sing, making spirits bright. What fun it is to laugh and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Yikes. That was, yeah. Yeah, gotta get that on YouTube.
You were leading.